What if we could advance brain health by making early detection of cognitive disorders accessible to everyone? Our next guest, Dr. David Bates, is on a mission to do just that as the CEO and co-founder of Linus Health. With a diverse background spanning science, engineering, and entrepreneurship, David brings a unique perspective to the challenges of brain health. Linus Health is leveraging cutting-edge neuroscience, clinical expertise, and artificial intelligence to transform how we detect and address cognitive and brain disorders. Altogether, David shares how Linus Health's innovative digital cognitive assessment platform is empowering healthcare providers with actionable insights and supporting individuals with personalized action plans. Join us as we explore David's vision for a future where proactive brain health is the norm, potentially changing millions of lives worldwide. Let's go.
Welcome to Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli, where we highlight and speak with the innovators, the game changers, and the pioneers who are deeply passionate and relentless in solving the problems our world is facing today. This is your opportunity to connect with and learn from these leaders and to support them on their mission. Perhaps they will soon be hearing your story as well. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you on this journey with us. Hi, Dr. Bates. Thank you for joining on our podcast today.
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be here with you.
Well, given your passion to transform brain health for people across the world by advancing how we detect and address cognitive and brain disorders, I'm looking forward to this important conversation today. But before we dive in, a bit of housekeeping. While listening to any of our episodes, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you will automatically receive episode updates in your podcast player. Simply search Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Lastly, please visit the bottom of the episode notes to connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter in order to further the conversations occurring on this podcast. All right, David, it's almost time for our community to learn how you and the Linus Health team are creating practical solutions for proactive brain health by leveraging cutting-edge neuroscience, clinical expertise, and artificial intelligence with the goal to enable a future where people can live longer, happier, and healthier lives with better brain health. But first, what's that one piece of advice that you would give to others who are passionate about reimagining the health of our world?
The one piece of advice is to get informed and to really understand the current state of affairs, but don't give up on the world that you can imagine and have the patience and endurance to go after it, because it is a slog in healthcare, but it can change, and the people by far want to do the right thing. It just is very entrenched. And so persistence, hold on to your dream, but accept the current state of reality.
David, of course, we're going to dive into your journey of how you became the CEO at Linus Health and what's going on with the organization. But before we go there, on the other side of our commercial break, in regards to that piece of advice, which I think is incredibly important, especially for our aspiring entrepreneurs that tune into this podcast, what does that mean for you, or what has that meant for you over the years? How did you go about doing that? Did you talk to the end users? Did you talk to customers? Did you study articles and literature? Like, how did you go about truly understanding a problem at hand that you wanted to solve for?
Yeah, so for me, it was really, I always want to fundamentally understand the why and what matters. So for brain health specifically, I have always been curious about just the complexity and it's mysterious, even majestic, what happens in the brain. And it's on par with even the universe itself. And I kind of geek out as a hobby in, theoretical physics or quantum mechanics. You see, what is this mystery? And so the brain has always been intriguing to me, and I seek to understand it as best I can. And especially understanding, it is neurological disease is the largest disease burden in the world. It affects so many people, brain-related disability. And some we just accept. It just is. It's bad. It's this way. But it doesn't have to be. And you consider the majority of suffering in the world, it's because of some imbalance in thinking, in carrying out, what is right and doing, things that just don't make sense. And I think a lot of it has to do with diseases we know, and then pathologies with the brain circuits that we just don't even know how that dysfunction occurs. And so, I really am intrigued by the brain. I'm really called to help alleviate suffering in the world and broadly, around the whole world, even though I'm in the US. but really care about people's health around the world and being able to live their best life and to be their best self. And as far as the healthcare side, maybe I was a little naive. In the early days, I heard it takes 17 years to get something new into the clinic. And I thought, that's crazy. Maybe they didn't know what they were doing. And just total naivety. But then I realized, it is a massive business. It is a massive machine. And they are caring for people every day. And the healthcare providers are already overtaxed. And there's a business and everything. There's policy. There's so many things. And you're dealing with human health. And so there's a lot on the line. It is very intricate and complex, kind of like the brain. And so understanding it and listening is very important to the pain of the providers and the tax that they have and the why things are the way they are. But never giving up on, those patients and their loved ones, knowing and really walking in their shoes. Because as I tell our team, on the other side of all our work is a person who has dreams. They have a life, they have a history. And they have, loved ones, and they have successes, and they have failures. And especially the disease we face, our first facing is Alzheimer's and dementia. That disease is so cruel. It's trying to steal that from them and to steal that loved one from all the family and from the friends. And we can never forget that. And so that's the end goal, is to alleviate the suffering and enable those people to, at the end of their life, know who they are, know who their loved ones are, know what they've done, atone for what they need to, but celebrate their contributions and really, really end well. And so that's what drives us, but at the same time accepting, there is a whole business around healthcare, and people are not against innovation. They're not against new things. It takes time and it takes persistence.
Very, very well said, David. I could not agree with you more. This is one of the most complex, multifaceted, multi-sided industries. And at the end of the day, as you mentioned, there is a human at the center of it all. There are people at the center of what we call health care. So thank you for that, David. Incredible words of advice for our community. And of course, we're going to discuss your passion, your mission, and your fire to help solve and continue to create opportunities for good brain health around the world. We're going to discuss all of that and more after we get back from thanking our community champion sponsor.
Healthcare faces a paradox that echoes through generations. While the current practices that help heal patients today are vital, it is crucial to evaluate them through an environmental lens. OSHA's Responsible for Tomorrow initiative is a collection of interviews featuring influential thought leaders and industry experts like you, who share their sustainability strategies, insights, and provide valuable perspectives from diverse industries to inspire innovation within the healthcare sector. OSHA invites you to join this journey. Want to share your sustainability story? OSHA is actively looking for partners to highlight the important and inspiring work being done around the globe. Check out OSHA's Responsible for Tomorrow initiative and series at OSHA.com. That's OSSUR.com. Or visit the episode notes and click on their link. Together, and with OSHA helping lead the way, let's all be responsible for tomorrow.
All right, we are back with Dr. David Bates, CEO of Linus Health. David, thank you so much for setting the stage on the front end of this episode. Incredible words of advice for our community. And of course, you really did set the stage to discuss what you are doing at Linus Health, all the good things happening in your camp, where you see things heading, not just for the industry, not just for brain health across the world, but of course, where the organization is going as well. And of course, how we can be helping you out as well. We have an incredible community rallied around this podcast that I know will definitely want to get involved with you and the Linus Health team. But first, David, bring it back. You guys have been around now for about 5 years. That's a wonderful journey for any company, especially in healthcare. How did it all come to be? You said you've been fascinated by the brain for many, many years. This is something that has intrigued you for a long time. How did all of this, intrigue and fascination of brain health turn into an actual company? How did it all come to be?
Sure. So I'll try to be brief with the background. So I'm a scientist by training, an engineer. I was actually investing in venture capital. In parallel to that, I'm on the board of a foundation that is dedicated to advancing brain health, because we see the plight in the country and around the world. It's really contributing, doing our best to put a shoulder in to help with brain health. So I was investing along a thesis that sensor technologies and software can broker the exchange between not only the physical and psychological, but the analog and the digital. And so software can broker or extend the consciousness into the environment. And I thought, through the technologies, there will be a distribution of healthcare because centralized health is the model of the 20th century. And it's cross-sectional, it's not longitudinal, and it certainly isn't able to meet the needs of the population at scale. And so I was looking to invest in a company like Linus Health because I thought, this would be an ideal investment. It would be timely. And it is what the world needs today to really take some of these technologies that we're using in the built environment to analyze people's behavior, what they like, how's their sentiment when they walk in the retail store, how's their sentiment when they leave, what do they stop at and look at. They're analyzing human behavior, but to make business decisions around what to market or, what scents people like. Is there a higher and better use for that? Well, I believe there is, and that is to understand brain health and function and to enable people the resources, the information, and the tools to have agency on their brain health and live their best life and the quality of life. So I was in a room. A gentleman was brought in from Beth Israel. His name's Alvaro Pasqualeone. He's a cognitive neurologist. And he sat down. It didn't look like he wanted to be there. At the time, I didn't want to be there. And so we were both stuck looking at each other. And I just asked him a question about the brain. And he just lit up. And he started to talk about its intricacies. It was something to the effect, where does thought come from? And he started to go into, we don't really understand, but went into detail. And it's like everyone else just faded away. It was just he and I for an hour. It seemed like 5 minutes. And we could just keep talking forever. We parted ways. And then I went and started to work on this company because, again, I didn't find the company in the field that I was looking to invest in. And lo and behold, a year later, Alvaro writes me and he says, I'm still thinking about our conversation. And I've done, in science, I've achieved a lot. In medicine, I've achieved a lot. But I just have to get out and make a bigger impact. And I think the only way to do it is commercially. And so I said, hey, I'm already working on something. So we teamed up with a technologist friend of mine, and we formed Linus Health in June of 2019 to really use these sensors, use software and advanced analytics to deliver brain health insights and action plans so people can take agency over their brain health and live their best life.
What a powerful backstory of how it came together. You have those conversations. There's, at least for me as well, David, I can count them on maybe both hands, those ones that are so profound, you never forget them. And you just mentioned it with your now co-founder, right? Of what that can do to set the stage, to hear from him a year later that he's still thinking about that conversation that you felt, was only 5 minutes, but it actually was over an hour. Incredibly powerful. And that's exactly how amazing companies just like Linus Health are brought to bear. So David, let's go there. Let's talk current state. You kind of teed it up, but who is Linus Health? And then we'll talk about, a little practically and tactically how Linus Health is engaging with consumers, how it's engaging with the healthcare industry. But before we go there, let's first start. Who is Linus Health?
So Linus Health, the name Linus comes from the beloved Peanuts character. It was named by co-founder. It wasn't me, but it was a very appropriate name because his advice and demeanor with Charlie Brown's exactly how I see Linus working with patients, providers, healthcare practitioners. So Linus is artificial intelligence enabled. AI is a buzzword. It's really, to me, it's a tool. It's using software, basically using complex math to do tasks, to perform things more efficiently or to be able to do it at scale. And so in the macro sense, we have a major problem in the healthcare macro situation, especially when it comes to neuroscience. There is a tremendous, with an aging population, there's a tremendous rise of chronic illness. Hypertension, diabetes, they are being managed. Those are massive chronic illnesses. There are others, but mild cognitive impairment is not. In fact, the recent report showed by Soren Mackey and his colleagues that 92% of MCI is undiagnosed. So only 8% of MCI is diagnosed. And that's because a lot of doctors would tell you there's nothing we can do about it. And so you have this Econ 101 situation where you have this tremendous demand for services. for neurospecialist services. And then you have a constrained supply because there's only so many. You have about 58 million seniors in the US, and about 1 in 3 has cognitive impairment. But most of it, 92%, is undiagnosed. And that's just the standard state because, again, there's nothing you can do about it. And the problem is if let's say a drug came out that could actually help with Alzheimer's, like Leqembi, and potentially Eli Lilly's drug, donanemab. If that gets approved, now there'll be 2 on the market. And then commercials will start. And then dementia is the number one fear of people over 55. So that unmet need all of a sudden gets activated. And you have a constrained supply. And when you have a constrained supply and a relatively infinite demand, your mitigating lever is price. But in healthcare, we can't just infinitely increase price. We're already spending almost 18% of the GDP on it. So price is not an option. The only lever left is wait times. And if you have a neurodegenerative disease, wait times are your enemy. And so a major second problem is the wait times, which are already increasing over 12 months. And another publication came out by the same group that said wait times with these disease-modifying therapies emerging, unless something changes in the system, they will go from 6 to 12 months to over 50 months. And 50 months is way too long with a neurodegenerative disease. It's not even worth going. So what Linus Health does is we take what those time-consuming, tedious aspects of a neurospecialist and we mimic them using artificial intelligence and we put it into the device. And so there's something called the Boston Process Approach, which was developed by a neuropsychologist named Edith Kaplan and a cognitive neurologist named Norman Gushwin from Beth Israel. And Edith was at the Boston VA. And it was called the Boston Process Approach, wherein they said, if you observe the patient while taking the task, the information gained through that observation is more valuable than the output of the task itself. It's a process approach. They're using their biological sensors, their eyes and ears especially, to understand the patient's behavior and all the errors they make, the hesitations, the frustrations as they carry out the task. That is what makes them a specialist. They have pattern recognition. They have a biological neural net. They just see the pattern. We mimic that in the device. And so we, over the sensors, in a time series fashion, and sampling at 120 times a second, we pick up all those details of someone carrying out a task. So it's computational analysis of human behavior to understand brain function in exquisite detail. And so we're more sensitive than any other test that we've been put up against. And we have incredible ability to multiplex those aspects of brain function by using different machine learning derived models. So we can tell you about their cognition. Is it more of an amnestic variety? Is it dysexecutive? Is it mixed? We can tell you about how their impact, because they're doing a process, we can forecast this is how it's likely affecting their instrumental activities of daily living, which is used to stage. Do they have MCI or early dementia? We can predict whether or not they have amyloid pathology, one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. Even we have some data coming out, we can predict tau pathology. And then lastly is, we have clinical decision support in the platform so that we're as if, in a nutshell, it's as if we took a specialist and put them in the room with the primary care doc or with the medical assistant, and we're telling them what to do. Here's the insights we're seeing. Here's what you can do about it. Because a lot of cognitive impairment actually can be caused by medications. It can be caused by obstructive sleep apnea, depression, other things. And we need to rule those things out so people can get those things immediately addressed in the normal healthcare pathway. And then we can isolate, if it's neurodegenerative disease, get them to the right place. Is it vascular? Take them down that channel. If it's Alzheimer's, take them down that channel. And take that, 12 to plus month wait and condense it into a month. Even a single appointment and a blood test one day. I believe that's how Alzheimer's will be diagnosed. And the Linus Health platform really focuses on delivering that. And so today we sell to physician practices in primary care and neurology and in other specialties. And we sell to health systems, especially the academic medical center health systems, because they do both research and clinical. And the thing is, when we collect this multimodal time series data, we can roll it up into a brain bank and you can get population health. So you have these digital functional twins of the population to understand how their brain health is today and how it is over time, how they're responding to things like treatments, lifestyle interventions. There's so many things that we don't know that I believe will be found in this data, because when you have that data, now all the data scientists, all the experts can start to analyze it and find new and better things. And so I'm really excited about this new kind of dynamic data collection. So we're delivering value to the front lines, we're delivering value to the patients, even to the caregivers, but we're also advancing the field, I expect, by collecting these massive amounts of data to do population level health and innovation, push the boundaries of the new frontier in understanding brain health and function. So that's what Linus Health does today. We go all the way from remote case finding to in-clinic assessment, to clinical decision support, to e-consult, plugged into the record. So we're really a full service platform for brain health in a medical context, also on the clinical trial side.
David, that is an exciting current state, and discussing exactly what you guys are offering. I couldn't agree more. It's, we don't even know what we don't know yet, right? In regards to the collection of this data, where's it going to go? What's it going to do for us? I almost view it as a potential national, like literal national treasure for all of us, right? It's this notion of being able to collectively leverage this opportunity, find insights that we don't even know about yet. We don't even know about our brain health. An incredibly, incredibly exciting moment in time, David. David, let's talk about some of those end users. You talked about health systems, academic institutions. You talked about practices, et cetera. How has the reception been around these digital technologies as they engage with their own practice? And then, of course, the end user being the patient, being the consumer. How has the reception been from your end users?
So far, the reception has been great. Still early days. We spent the first several years working with pharma companies and research institutes to run clinical trials, to collect data, to understand the population. But just recently, last year, we deployed into what I call the wild. So in general release and in learning how it is in busy, demanding workflows, how do we fit into those workflows? And really, how does the patient respond? How does the provider respond? And how is the caregiver? And we recently ran like a quality study at the UMass Medical School. And the results will be published, but we are very pleased at the reception, at the primary care physicians, because they're incredibly busy. They have so much to manage. And they're like, is this another thing we have to do? They care deeply for their patients, but they only have so many hours in a day. But after they got to using it, this is incredibly valuable. And 100% of those who used it said, I want to keep using it. That was a real confirmation that we're on the right path. So that's exciting. We're seeing it picked up by other specialties like cardiology, emergency medicine, oncology, so anesthesiology to predict postoperative delirium. So we're excited about the future. But again, it's early days, but the health system reception has been great. Being able to configure workflows to meet their particular resource requirements and optimize their pathways and to care for their population, because populations are diverse. They have different needs, and to be able to configure to accommodate their particular situation, I think has been a real benefit for our platform and for our business. So we really seek to partner with the health systems, both for the point of care, but also all the way out to population health to better understand their population and serve, again, a diverse community and meet their needs.
Well, a couple things you said. It's a very bright future. We're going to talk about the future state. We're going to pull that crystal ball off the shelf. And you also want to set the stage. You also said something very profound earlier. You mentioned tens of millions of older adults just in our country alone. 1 in 3 are having a brain health issue. That is it's an enormous problem at scale. And as you mentioned, the wait times, it's almost incomprehensible of where we are currently at. And when you contemplate those types of wait times for something so critical, especially as you mentioned, that older adult population. So let's talk about future state. You were talking about how excited you are. Yes, that's kind of some of the frustration today that I just discussed. But how are you seeing future state? What do you see in the next 2 to 3 years in this field, on the macro? And then, of course, next 2 to 3 to 5 years for Linus Health as well.
So in the nearer term future, next, call it 2 years, really see health systems, healthcare delivery across the board adopting platforms like ours to service the brain health needs. And, our mission, Linus Health, is to help bring brain health into its rightful place in the global standard of care and make it accessible to everyone. And so we're really pushing for that. We want it right there next to the heart, if not above it. We think that's where it belongs, so that it would be centered, just like it's the center of the person. So brain health is whole health. And we want to see a platform that really equips providers to next generation delivery of healthcare, serving this population, optimizing independence and quality of life. So really getting this platform out there. And then what really excites me in the long term is, as I mentioned, because we can use the computers to analyze human behavior across a variety of sensors, we're able to develop machine learning derived algorithms for each specific need. And so we want to see the indications expand, to Parkinson's, to ALS, which we're already in clinical trials for, but on to TBI, to depression, to schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. So we're capturing all those things because we're analyzing the voice, the speech, the eye movements, the hand movements, every aspect, because it's all derived from the brain. And even the speech alone is so powerful. Like what goes into hearing, understanding, processing, generating information, engaging the diaphragm, moving, through air, through the larynx, through the voice box and the tongue, and all the intricacies that go into forming words, into conveying thoughts. To be able to use the computer, which slows it down because they're sampling at 120 times a second. So to you and I, it's like 1 second. To the machine, it's like 3 minutes. It's incredibly slow, analyzing each little thing. And from that, using the computer-derived models and clinical information, so to understand the clinical meaningfulness of it, that's very powerful. And I think it can be used pan-neuro. And then the longer term, you said, 3 to 5 years, I really think people are going to become increasingly aware of how to optimize their brain health. And we want to equip them, even at a younger age, to understand what's good for them. It's very personalized. We have a technology, it's called Epsom, that we licensed out of Edinburgh, Scotland. And now we're deploying it and expanding it. Enables people to define what matters most to them in life and to rank it. And then we tie everything back to what matters to you. Like imagine going to the doctor and say, what do you want out of this engagement? You'd be like, what? You're asking me, doc? And it's like, yeah, what matters to you? I want to be able to play basketball or badminton or whatever it is. And so every little piece of advice, if we can tie it back to enabling you to do what you love the best you possibly can. And so I think that's really where brain health care needs to go, is to equip, to empower people to partner with their physician, with their healthcare provider, to optimize their own health, to live a high quality life and maintain their independence. That's really where I hope things are going. And 5 years sounds like a long time, but I think it'll be here before we know it.
David, I'm fired up. Put me in, coach. I am fired up. What an exciting future. I can obviously tell you are incredibly passionate about this mission and what this means for brain health across the globe. Incredible, incredible future vision for not only the industry writ large, but for, of course, where Linus Health is going. Incredibly exciting. Let's bring it back to today. Going to throw that crystal ball back on the shelf for a moment, David. We'll bring it back to today. We have an amazing community of some of the best leaders in this industry rallied around this podcast, and they love to help our guests out just like yourself. So we always love to ask, what's one problem, need, or question that you have that this community around passionate pioneers can be helping you with?
Really, it's getting to know introductions to those folks who have the current conviction and it's in their objectives to advance brain health, especially around MCI and dementia care, where they're experiencing long wait times and they're experiencing, aren't identifying early MCI. We'd love to engage with those folks. They're already set on their objectives for the year or the next period of time, and they want solutions for brain health. We'd love to engage with those folks. And second is, a general awareness that dementia we're not sure where exactly it comes from, but has a lot to do with lifestyle. And so even in middle age or younger, to understand those factors that contribute to brain health or erode brain health. So information, getting the word out that you don't have to just passively end up with dementia. It's not a dice roll. So knowledge is power on that. And so to be active, to be promoting brain health, that's another area that we really push out there.
Well, for our community to extend these conversations from our podcast today, David, how do they get a hold of you? Contact points online, social media handles, or otherwise? How do they track you down?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and they can reach out to me anytime at info@linus.health. I'm always checking those, believe it or not. And I love to hear from folks, especially people passionate about brain health, people who have lived experience, who have felt the sting of watching a loved one suffer. I'd love to partner with you and really to advance this mission so other people don't have to experience that. I'd love to hear from anyone around this mission.
Excellent. Well, we'll have those contact points in the episode notes. So for everyone tuning in, just simply scroll down into your show notes for this episode to find those contact points for David and the Linus Health team. Of course, you can head over to our free global online community at passionatepioneers.com, where there will be a post for David's episode and a place for you to leave comments and suggestions or questions or otherwise, and to find those contact points. Again, over at passionatepioneers.com. David, this has been a very, very exciting and passionate conversation. You definitely are not lacking any of that as you continue your mission being the CEO at Linus Health. So to round us out, of course, I got to ask you, fill in the blank. I'm a passionate pioneer because
I have to answer a higher calling.
I love it, David. I love it. Thank you so much for taking a pit stop to be with our community as you and the Linus Health team continue to build on the incredible mission that is set forth for your organization. Thank you for taking the time to be with our community and to share everything happening in the Linus Health camp. We do appreciate your time. And again, David, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for joining us today on Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. We'd love to hear your feedback about the podcast so we can continue to improve this community and to further support the pioneers being featured. Lastly, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and invite your friends and colleagues to join us. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you back with us during our next episode.